Aloha and welcome to Java. It's Friday, September 22nd, 2023. Happy Friday. Thank you all for being here. We've got some crazy things that happened in the market yesterday. We're watching a favorite risk indicator. The MMRI is only a few points from extreme levels. So we watch major pullback in the market. We're showing signs of fear. It's not anything like what we are kind of really expecting, but this could be the start of it. We're watching people. The price of gold is going up. People are pouring back into it because they're afraid. And then on top of this, we've got them recommending you should buy bonds. Bonds are the debt, US backed government debt. And they used to be a safe haven, basically. You know you could get your money back, but the risk of a government default is increasing. And for those of you that are not traders, I just thought I'd put this in because this is kind of what the price actions look like. This is the S&P 500, kind of a conglomerate of 500 companies across the United States and their stock values. So it just kind of shows where we're at. They're still concerned about the government shutdown. And the back end of this, as we were speaking about yesterday, it's not so much that it's going to stop the government services, which it will. It'll cause some havoc. However, they're not going to be getting their numbers or reports to the Federal Reserve to make their decisions going forward. My personal opinion is they're going to use this as a smokescreen for whatever it is that they feel that they need to do in order to manage this market. So we don't have much coming out today. But we do have Federal Reserve President speaking this afternoon, and they typically they kind of manage the market, so that could cause some volatility. So I'm just urging some caution today. Expect volatility and be ready to have whether you use your stops or whatever your strategy, stick to it. And I wish you all luck on that. So quick note on de-dollarization: what happens if it loses reserve status? It can't for a while. And I'll tell you why. Back when it became the reserve currency, they required that any goods purchased from other countries would first have to be bought in US dollars, whether it's large shipments of oil, food, minerals, anything, you name it. And so all of the countries stocked up on dollars so they could make large purchases. Well, they can't all dump them at once or it would actually hurt them as well. So they've got all these stores of dollars in their piggy banks. They have already begun to unwind those and trade them back in, but it will take some time, at least months, if not years, is my guess. I would say probably within the next year or two, and we'll watch that major shift. But for now, we can see how this manifests because they're saying the hottest jobs in Argentina pay in dollars, and that's because dollars are much more tradable than theirs. They are seeing inflation over 10%. So when your currency is becoming worthless every day, you want to move to something else that holds its value. So what do we do in our case? Because it's not much other to hold. That's why we recommend small denominations, tradable denominations, physical silver, physical gold. You might want to look into gold backs, which are issued by a few states, and it's actually got physical gold within the notes, and other things that you can trade for the goods when this happens. Start stocking up now so it's not too difficult. So they put out this story. The US could be in a recession and we just don't know it yet. This is feeding the mainstream media because I don't see how anybody could not have any clue that we're in a recession right now. It's just unless you're elite and you're completely disconnected. So they're asking, are markets getting more worried about a recession? And Invesco is saying that the Fed pivot is coming. I don't think a Fed pivot is coming because that means they would immediately have to sacrifice the currency. And I don't think they're ready to do that yet. I think actually they will be looking more towards a hike because of the oil and price inflation. So they're talking about also the layoffs staying low as they're choking off inflation. Well, another part of this story is more companies are laying off workers. I think the unemployment is underreported, but also they just issued work permits for almost 500,000 migrants. So when they start working, I don't know how they're going to report that within this next 30 days. That will be interesting. So, and we've got him talking about the bond market, which is the debt market, is really the driver, as we all know, of all of this going on behind the markets, much larger than the markets. And the debt market is shaking. We're much farther in debt and cannot pay it forward. So that's why the risk of defaulting, not being able to pay that debt at all, is increasing daily. Speaking of debt on a smaller basis, we've got the student loan repayments are about to resume. So that is this coming month, October, and they're expecting defaults. So honestly, they're showing the numbers that they're actually paying 30 to 45% are already being paid. So that's actually encouraging. I expect that when these oil prices go up, though, we may see more defaults. And then in another story, we've got hotel loan defaults that are rising as people have less discretionary income. They're kind of trying to pull back. So they're taking less vacations now, and hotels are starting to feel this. So this ties in also to what we were talking about the other day with Airbnb. They're also having difficulties and struggling. And I think when that struggle gets to be enough, they will begin dumping those properties onto the market. That will affect the real estate market. So for oil, the biggest story, Russia is still restricting fuel exports. Well, if they're still restricting putting out gasoline and diesel, the price goes up. That's going to cause inflation across the board. Got a short story on resources because they're starting to put these out about water. Threat of massive drinking water crisis. And then in Seattle, talking about the drought, having a shortage. Another thing you should have at least a form of water filtration, and there are forms of perpetual water. It rains in Seattle almost every single day. So there's ways, and you should kind of look to this and make sure that you've got water filtration and some methods there to kind of back you up. So with this, if you take a moment, if you don't mind, please like the video if there's anything you do indeed like. And we'll move on. So outside of the markets, I've got a couple of updates. Saudi Crown Prince, if you haven't heard, in Riyadh, they were talking about Iran getting nuclear capability. And so he's talking about if they do, then they need it. And in order to do this, they must cross through Israel. So Israel has already given the okay that if necessary, they can, basically everybody's arming up. So they're kind of setting the stage for war. And so that's, if all else fails, then they go to their bankers' wars, but we have to keep an eye on this. And then I thought this story was interesting. This New York City Councilwoman, she's sounding the alarm, not because there's so many migrants coming in, but because they could be in New York within a week, and she's worried about New York. So how about worry about the people in general, or the crisis is really in what's going on here? So I've got one last thing that I wanted to go over. This is Russell Brand, and he does a lot of videos. He's begun recently telling the truth on a lot of things, breaking into stories they don't want you to know. And all of a sudden, it comes out with allegations against him. So if these are true, well, then let justice decide. However, they're cutting him off of the media, and I see this as a witch hunt. And the reason is they want to shut him up. So they're trying to deplatform him. The only one that has refused to deplatform him is Rumble. So with that, I'm looking into Rumble because I support having freedom of speech because it's unrelated to what he's talking about or what he does. So we'll see how this works out, but I just wanted to bring it up with that. I wish you all a green trading day, or just a wonderful day in general, wonderful weekend. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.